The Laird and the Man of Peace. In the Highlands of Scotland there once lived a Laird of Brockburn, who would not believe in fairies. Although his sixth cousin on the mother's side, as he returned one night from a wedding, had seen the Men of Peace hunting on the sides of Ben Moich Dwy, dressed in green and with silver-mounted bridles to their horses which jingled as they rode. And though Rory the fiddler, having gone to play at a christening, did never come home, but crossing a hill near Brockburn in a mist was seduced into a shean, or fairy turret, whereas all decent bodies well believe he is playing still, in spite, I say, of the wise saws and experiences of all his neighbours, Brockburn remained obstinately incredulous. Not that he bore any ill will to the good people, or spoke uncivilly of them. Indeed, he always disavowed any feeling of disrespect towards them, if they existed, saying that he was a man of peace himself, and anxious to live peacefully with whatever neighbours he had, but that till he had seen one of the Dia na Shi, he could not believe in them. Now one afternoon, between Hallowsmass and Yule, it chanced that the Laird, being out on the hills looking for some cattle, got parted from his men and dogs, and was overtaken by a mist, in which, familiar as the country was to him, he lost his way. In vain he raised his voice high and listened low. No sound of man or beast came back to him through the thickening vapour. Then night fell and darkness was added to the fog, so that Brockburn needed to sound every step with his run before he took it. Suddenly light footsteps pattered beside him, then something rubbed against him. Then it ran between his legs. The delighted Laird made sure that his favourite collie had found him once more. "Whoa, Jock, man," he cried, "but you needn't throw me on my face. What's got ye tonight, that you should lose your way in a bit of mist?" To this a voice from the level of his elbow replied, in piping but patronising tones, "Never did I lose my way in a mist since the night that Finn crossed over to Ireland in the dawn of history. Eh, lad, I'm well acquainted with every bit of path on this hillside, 300 years, and I'll guide you safe home, never fear." The hairs on Brockburn's head stood on end, till they lifted his broad bonnet, and a damp chill broke out over him that was not the fog. But for all that he softly resisted the evidence of his senses, and only felt about him for the collie's head to pat, crying, "Bark, Jack, my manny, bark. Then I'll recognise your voice. You can. There's no canny can ye speak like a Christian, my wee doggie." "I'm na your doggie. I'm a man of peace," was the reply. "Dinna miscall your betters, Brockburn. Why will ye not credit our existence, man?" "Seeing's believing," said the Laird stubbornly, "but the mist o'er thick for seeing the night, ye can. Turn round to your left, man, and you'll see," said the dwarf, and catching Brockburn by the arm he twisted him swiftly round 3 times, when a sudden blaze of light poured through the mist and revealed a crag of the mountain, well known to the Laird, and which he now saw to be a kind of turret or tower. Light shone gaily through the crevices or windows of the shean, and sounds of revelry came forth, among which fiddling was conspicuous. The tune played at that moment was Delvenicide. Blinded by the light and amazed at what he saw, the Laird staggered and was silent. "Keep to your feet, man, keep to your feet," said the dwarf, laughing. "I doubt you're fool, Brockburn." "I'm no fool," said the Laird slowly, his run grasped firmly in his hand, and his bonnet set back from his face, which was deadly pale. "But, man, is yon Rory? I'd know his fiddle in 1,000. Ask no questions, and you'll be told no lies," said the dwarf. Then stepping up to the door of the shean, he stood, so that the light from within fell full upon him, and the astonished Laird saw a tiny but well-proportioned man, with delicate features and golden hair flowing over his shoulders. He wore a cloak of green cloth lined with daisies, and had silver shoes. His beautiful face quivered with amusement, and he cried triumphantly, "Do you see me? Do you see me now, Brockburn?" "Aye, aye," said the Laird, "and seeing's believing." "Then ride with ye," shouted the Man of Peace, and once more seizing the laird by the arm, he turned him swiftly round, this time to the right. And at the third turn the light vanished, and Brockburn and the man of peace were once more alone together in the mist. "Ah, well, Brockburn," said the man of peace, "I'll allow you're candid, and have a convincible mind. I'm no ill deposit to ye, and yes, get safe hame, man." As he spoke he stooped down, and picking up half a dozen big stones from the mountain-side, he gave them to the laird, saying, "If the good wife asks you about the bit of stones, say you got them in a compliment." Brockburn put them into his pocket, briefly saying, "I'm obliged to ye," but as he followed the man of peace down the hillside he found the obligation so heavy that from time to time he threw a stone away, unobserved, as he hoped, by his companion. When the first stone fell, the man of peace looked sharply round, saying, "Watch ye! It'll be me striking my run upon the ground," said the laird. "You're mad," said the man of peace, and Brockburn felt sure that he knew the truth, and was displeased. But as they went on, the stones were so heavy, and bumped the laird's side so hard, that he threw away a second, dropping it as gently as he could. But the sound of its fall did not escape the ears of the man of peace, who cried as before, "Watch yon! It's just a nasty host that I have," said the laird. "Man, you're daft," said the dwarf contemptuously. "That's what ails ye." The laird now resolved to his prudent, but the inconvenience of his burden was so great that after a while he resolved to risk the displeasure of the man of peace once more, and gently slipped a third stone to the ground. Third time lucky, he thought, but the proverb failed him, for the dwarf turned as before, shouting, "Watch yon! It'll be my new brogues that ye hear bumping upon the muckle stones," said the laird. "You're a fool, Brockburn, I tell you so, you're a fool," growled the man of peace angrily, and the laird dared not drop any more of the dwarf's gifts. After a while his companion's good humour seemed to return, and he became talkative and generous. "I mind your great-grandfather well, Brockburn. He was a homely man. I found his sheep for him one night in this very hillside. Mair by token. Ye'll find your beasties at hame, and the men and the dogs forbye." The laird thanked him heartily, and after a while the dwarf became more liberally spirited still. "Yez no have to say that you've been with the Donny She, and I know better for it," he said. "I'm thinking I'll grant ye 3 wishes, but choose wisely, man, and dinna throw 'em away. I ha' me fears that you're not without a bee in your bonnet, Brockburn." Incensed by this insinuation, the laird defended his own sagacity at some length, and retorted on his companion with doubts of the power of the Donny She to grant wishes. "The proof of the pudding's in the eating," said the man of peace. "Wish away, Brockburn, and make the nut as hard to crack as ye will." The laird at once began to cast about in his mind for 3 wishes sufficiently comprehensive to secure his long life prosperity, but the more he beat his brains the less could he satisfy himself. How many miles, he wondered, thus the dwarf kept silently beside him, he never knew, before he sank exhausted on the ground, saying, "I'm thinking, man, that if you could bring home to me, in place of bringing me home, I'd misdoubt your proverbs no more. It's a far cry to Lochaew, you know, and it's a weary long road to Brockburn." "Is this your wish?" asked the man of peace. "This is my wish," said the laird, striking his run upon the ground. The words had scarcely passed his lips when the whole homestead of Brockburn, house and farm buildings, was planted upon the bleak hillside. The astonished laird now began to bewail the rash wish which had removed his home from the original sheltered and fertile valley where it originally stood to the barren side of a bleak mountain. The man of peace, however, would not take away hints as to undoing his work of his own accord. All he said was, "If you wish it away, so it'll be, but then you'll only have 1 wish left. You've small discretion to-night, Brockburn, I'm feared. To leave the steading in such a spot is not to be thought on," sighed the laird, as he spent his second wish in undoing his first. But he cannily added the provision, "and you may take me with it." The words were no sooner spoken than the homestead was back in its place, and Brockburn himself was lying on his own bed, Jock, his favourite collie, barking and licking his face by turns for joy. "Whisht, whisht, Jock," said the Laird. "Ye wouldna bark when I begged of ye, so ye may hold your peace now." And pushing the collie from him, he sat up in bed and looked anxiously, but vainly, round the chamber for the man of peace. Lie down," cried the good wife from beside him. "You're surely out o' your wits, Brockburn. Would ye gang stravagingly about the country again the night?" "Where is he?" cried the Laird. "There's not a soul here but your lawful wife and your own dear doggie." "Was there anybody that you expected?" asked his wife. "The man of peace, woman," cried Brockburn. "I'll have one o' me wishes to get, and I mayn't have it." "The man's mad," was the good wife's comment. "You've surely forgotten yourself, Brockburn. You never believed in the Donny She before." "Seeing's believing," said the Laird. "I foregathered with the man of peace the night on the hill, and I wish I just saw him again." As the Laird spoke, the window of the chamber was lit up from without, and the man of peace appeared sitting on the window ledge in his daisy-lined cloak, his feet hanging down into the room, and silver shoes glittering as they dangled. "I'm here, Brockburn," he said. "But, man, you've had your last wish." And even as the stupefied Laird gazed, the light slowly died away, and the man of peace vanished also. On the following morning the Laird was roused from his sleep by loud cries of surprise and admiration. The good wife had been stirring for some hours, and in emptying the pockets of her good man's coat, she had found 3 huge carigorms of exquisite tint and lustre. Brockburn thus discovered the value of the gifts, half of which he had thrown away. But no subsequent visits to the hillside led to their recovery. Many a time did the Laird bring home a heavy pocketful of stones, at the thrifty good wife's bidding, but they only proved to be the common stones of the mountain-side. The Shinny could never be distinguished from any other crag, and the Donny She were visible no more. Yet it is said that the Laird of Brockburn prospered and throve thereafter in acre, stall, and steading, as those seldom prosper who have not the good word of the people of peace.